Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Babbling Irons video with a very, very special guest in Jonathan Boyce. And yeah, we're very, very happy to announce our first sponsorship on the channel with Emotive. Really, really happy about it. Obviously, Jonathan, you're a West Ham fan, so we want to talk a little bit about West Ham opinions, of course, and how your services and products can kind of link into the West Ham fan aspect as well. But yeah, great to have you on, Jonathan.
Thanks for having me.
Firstly, how are you feeling about West Ham's transfer window so far? And Lopetegui, new direction we're heading in. You happy with it so far?
Yeah, probably like most of West Ham fans, it's been a bit of a roller coaster up to this point, even though it's still really early in the window. So I was intrigued and excited by Guilherme in terms of when he came in, less excited by West Ferdinand, and then it went really quiet. And I think there's a lot of debate around obviously Kilman's price tag, but I think as a player for the team, I think he's going to be really solid. And I think one of the things that's kind of overlooked how important he will be for instilling the kind of new tactics that Lopetegui wants to implement. And even Lopetegui himself has said, look, it's going to take a good 3 months for the players to get their head around what I want them to do. So if Kilman can speed that up, I think it can only be a bonus.
Yeah, 100%. We were kind of saying it on I think the video that dropped when the signing was made. We were kind of saying there needs to be that balance in the squad of the likes of Guilherme's, but also the solid signings and the foundations that someone like Lopetegui wants to bring in. And it's more that we've backed the manager to sign the player that he wants most. I think that's the most important message behind the signing. Sloth, Mike, how are you feeling about West Ham so far and the transfer window that's happened?
Mate, I am so incredibly relaxed about this window. It's ridiculous. I keep seeing so much tension and so many people just panicking and saying it's terrible, it's this, it's that. I have never been more relaxed about a transfer window in my life. I genuinely believe that Lopetegui, Steidten, and Mark Noble know exactly what they want to do. They know which youth players they want to bring up, or at least push this summer, which is also potentially going to ease some of that burden. I have no problems. And we keep hearing that, West Ham's got this huge list of players that they're looking at. As well, they bloody well should, because you're not always going to get your first target. You need to have backups to your backups. And also you need to have players that you are opportunistic on it. And I've got zero qualms with what we're doing. We've finally got a data team, we've finally got a full scouting team. Why would I be concerned about us having a list of 20 strikers? I'm pretty sure there's loads of clubs in the world that have a list of 20, 30 strikers, and they know they can't even get the top 20 in that list. And they're just hopeful. So I have no problems. I have no tension about this summer. I'm quite relaxed, which is really surprising compared to last year where I wasn't so relaxed.
Sloth, how are you feeling?
I think if anything, January has killed any sort of emotive reaction that I try. Like I'm trying not to get frustrated, and I think January very much put the bullet in that. It's been a really refreshing window so far. I think it looks like we've got lots of plans, and even though we have had deals that have not materialized, we're making offers. We seem to have a plan that is in place, and also a set criteria. It's really refreshing in comparison to chasing Jesse Lingard around for the entire summer. But yeah,
I think Benny Hill sketch in my head of Moyes running on behind him with the
I don't think that would have been too far off, but it's no, I think all good so far. Obviously, we'll mention the Kilman fee. I think that that's the way of football nowadays, isn't it? It seems to be that if you want a player off a Premier League side, if you want a homegrown player, it is the sort of fee that you have to pay these days. But overall, really happy with it so far.
Yeah, well summarized. I think we're, as you know, Jonathan, we're heavy on data and analysis on this channel. Everything we kind of look into when it's the transfer rumors, whether it's players coming into the team, it's all kind of data led, and a lot of it is statistical kind of driven. So kind of segues into why we wanted to partner with you, and why this is a really good fit for the channel, because obviously you'll explain a little bit more about Emotive in a bit, but you do offer those kind of solutions for people around data. And we'll kind of get into some of the key services that you offer, which can also resonate with the West Ham fans watching. But yeah, just really, really excited by this. Obviously, it's now official. Babbling Irons and Emotive will be partnering up, which is amazing. And, you know, you look at some of the brands that you guys have worked with, you know, you can see it there if you're watching Google, Apple, Sky. There's some really massive names. So good to have Babbling Irons in the mix, I'm guessing, with some of those giants. But yeah, Jonathan, could you just give us a little bit of an overview of Emotive as a company, and what are kind of the key services that you offer?
Yeah, I mean, to put it very simply, we offer kind of tech solutions. And what I mean by that is very specifically around things like web technologies, mobile apps, internal kind of bespoke tools and things along those lines. But I'd always say that the technology is kind of the means to end. It's really about the kind of interpersonal relationship with the people that run those businesses, the sector they work in, and the customers they're trying to serve. And that's first and foremost what we do. And then we kind of use technology to amplify whatever need they have within that. So we, as you can see from the logos, we've been involved in a wide range of sectors, from things like broadcast through to automotive, so some of the biggest brands like in there, and big agencies as well, and some really big tech companies as well, along with things like Apple and Google and so forth. So we worked with all of them, and in every single case it's a personal one-to-one kind of experience. But so that's what we do in a nutshell, is tech solutions for all businesses.
Amazing. Yeah, sounds really, really good. I think with what we're doing as well, we're trying to progress into people watching right now. A lot of our summer data has kind of been screenshots from external tools. So we're looking to kind of make our own Babbling Irons data source coming into it. Is that something Emotive could do for a company for like Babbling Irons, for example?
Yeah, exactly. So it's not about, I mean, the thing with those logos, it makes it sound like we only work with really big companies. We work really, really small companies or small channels like yourself. And it's absolutely the sort of thing we can do. Is, again, with the Babbling Irons kind of viewership, one of the things that, as you've already said, is you're really big on data and really understanding the analysis behind a player, why they play the way they do, what's good about them, what's a bit weak about them, and how they might fit into the West Ham format. So one of the things we've talked about off air is really kind of how do we do that and amplify it further so that we can build something that's even richer for the community, help the channel itself really dive into that data, but also allow other people to kind of potentially query it and do side-by-side comparisons and things like that. So all of those things are possible. It's really just a case of understanding what good looks like and building that through so that that data is useful to look at rather than data for data's sake.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that would be really useful for us as a channel as well, just for visualization as well for viewers. And you know, as you mentioned, the relationship is really key in that sense with how you're portraying the data as well. So yeah, you've got kind of like 4 key services. So I just wanted to like break into them a little bit more and maybe give an example of how that could relate to, say, a West Ham scenario, just for people watching to give it a little bit more context. So yeah, the first one obviously being digital solutions, you know, web development, app development, advanced technologies, all of that stuff. How could you use that in, say, a West Ham scenario for say it was West Ham Football Club? How could you do that?
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that. I've actually had conversations with West Ham Football Club about some of this stuff. It hasn't progressed to a stage we're building anything for them, but from a digital solutions perspective, we've talked to them about, for example, things to do with the actual playing staff itself, around tracking the health of the players, putting programs together so they have like a bespoke piece of software that they can track the team, the health, recovery processes, making sure the right dietary things in there. So when the players are at home, for example, they would have an own personal app and it would just kind of tee up all the stuff that they need to eat, play, understand where their stats are from the coaching staff who are tracking that in a much more detailed way. Some of the kind of ways that we could build services for West Ham for the public is better experiences in the stadium. We know they've got Wi-Fi, not very good Wi-Fi in the stadium, but they have it. Again, you know, how could you extend those experiences? Could you offer kind of live commentary that the fans could listen to while watching the game in front of them for real? Could you do augmented reality where you could actually overlay with the phone onto the pitch? I know some of the old fans would be like, hell no, what is that? Yeah. But all of those kind of things are possible in terms of...
I mean, the Bundesliga and a couple of other leagues are starting to do that with AI as well on top, and you can start to see it turns it a bit into a FIFA mode because you can see the names on top of the player and stuff. Exactly. But it's actually quite interesting in the way football and that kind of process is going. I think
it's moving that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I would say, look, going back to the consumer, you don't have to take out your phone and do it. You could just watch it and enjoy it the way you've always watched it. But for those who want that extra level of entertainment and that extra level of engagement, you can do that. One of the other places I think is something they could really do is build solutions that help with the ticketing services better. And I know it's a sore subject, so I'm not going to get into the wider conversation there. But I mean that issue that happens with allocations between different grounds from a home and away is quite disconnected because they all use different services. So there's ways to kind of integrate those together and transfer your ticket from a home and away so that the allocations are correct, that inter-club interoperability can be supported. So there's literally tons of opportunities to both grow the value of the club, but it's also to make things life easier and simpler from a fan perspective. And I would like to see the West Ham app go up a few levels. It's kind of a bit basic at the moment, and there isn't a lot of reason to use it over OneFootball or one of the other apps that might be out there. So hence why I think conversations with West Ham should be had around tools and solutions. But that's what we do from a digital solutions perspective.
Would you be able to track how high in yards Antonio's shot goes?
It's always just over the tree, isn't it?
I feel like that would be useful data.
It's just under where Zamora used to hit it, which was Rose Ed. So
I feel sorry for all those old people now. They're going to be at the top and have to catch it. It's going to work,
exactly.
Well, hopefully we sign a new striker and he's banging in the goals and we won't have to do that. But yeah, another one as well, Jonathan, you offer, which is really interesting. It's kind of like the professional training and coaching. Again, like very bespoke. Helps you kind of, if you're like a company, you can kind of refine that team's delivery skills, etc. Again, could you just expand on that a little bit more and how that could maybe apply to West Ham? Say, I know Liverpool did it recently with one of their members of staff. I can't remember his name, but yeah, just expand on that a little bit more.
Yeah, so in a very general sense, there are people that are already in the sector and people who want to enter the sector. And so there isn't a really obvious route to do that. And there's a lot of kind of schools and things that offer different things. But if you don't even know where to start, like should you be a UX professional? Should you be a data analysis? Should you be SEO expert? If you probably don't even know what those are, and then like, how do I get into them? So we kind of take you from the ground up of just kind of introducing you to what the possibilities are, what they involved. And we actually work with some schools at very, very young ages to show, for example, girls what's possible, because this idea of tech is a very masculine and very kind of mobile apps and web stuff. But there's actually a lot of design abilities in there. There's a lot of analysis pieces in there. There's a lot of customer service pieces in terms of understanding the need points and building things. So from a West Ham point of view, it would be kind of taking one of the junior people from the club and then kind of working them through and saying, okay, you want to be what now? Okay, you've had an injury. Do you want to go into the coaching? Okay, do you want to do management? Do you want to do health and fitness? Because working a football club isn't just management playing finished. There's a whole team of people, from the kit person, which I know people look down on, but is really important, to the people that do the logistics around where the coaches need to be picking up players and moving them from ground to ground, and the hotels and everything around that. There's obviously all the kind of sponsorship deals. There's marketing stuff. There's tons of stuff that happens within a club, and in the very same sense in the sector, in our sector. So getting people to understand what that is, but then also for established teams as well, working with them and saying, we've been doing this for a while. And what happens with a lot of companies is they become a bit insular. So they have their way of working, but that doesn't necessarily improve their performance or make them better than their competitors. So sometimes having this outside training coming in and saying, keep what you've got, but we can improve it here, here, and here. Now you're performing 10x, 20x more performant over what you were already doing within that business.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense. And how does that kind of differ to the kind of fractional expert service that you offer, which is a little bit more, is it that kind of more of a short-term solution? So as you say, applying it to a West Ham example would be like bringing in a set piece coach for a specific match or and providing training for a specific opponent, something like that.
Yeah, so rather than upskilling your own staff, for example, fractional expertise is a fairly new sector that's coming in, but many people would have heard of consultancies and may have a bad name around that, but consultancies, or you employ people with a lot of experience. Both of those equal huge expense for your business, right? So there's a bit of a stigma that sits around that. Now, what fractional expertise basically lets you do is get hold of the expert that you need when you need it without all the expense associated to it. So in a West Ham context, that would be, for example, you've got the day-to-day training, Lopetegui's doing what he's doing, but then he decides to bring a world-class expert to come in and help with set pieces. And that gives West Ham the edge over Tottenham or some other competitor, right? And they can then dip in and out of that expertise as and when they need on a very low flat fee. And then, for example, then we get into Europe, and now we need to change those set pieces, or we need to change our way of play or goalkeeping coach, because now we're having to deal with a very different type of football. Again, you can pull that expertise in. They can kind of do some training drills and help Lopetegui kind of get that difference on the pitch. So that's kind of how it works in a football sense, but in a technology or business sense, it's accessing people that have been there, done it. They're already in the sector, working around, so they're always having fresh views. You can come in and basically give you that insight and that strategy that you need as a business to outperform your competitors.
Interesting. Mike, Soft, do you think there's any room for that in the West Ham camp? This is when would you guys like maybe apply that to a West Ham game, other than say like a set piece expert? Is there any maybe like psychologically for penalties, something like that?
I definitely think we need something in terms of getting the fitness going, sorting out the injuries. Maybe a shooting coach for a couple of the players. But I think in all honesty, I think it's great that the services that offer, because again, when we talk about the fractional stuff and the other pieces, that ability to understand where you are as a person, as a group, as a staff, as a collective, and then actually finding ways in which to take maybe things that are not known even to the individual and taking that onto another level and moving them into an area where they're actually far more suited and you optimize their output. It is an incredible way, because people, as I said, get very insular even in their own jobs and don't actually necessarily think outside the box and think, well, I've actually got an interest here, but they tend not to do it. So I think having, where you're getting that advice and giving that push and giving that kind of even data and examples to why they will be great in certain positions, I think it's a fantastic thing to have. And yeah, I see it every day from being in tech myself. It's incredible what happens when people take a chance to take a leap, not only in the tech itself, but also when they kind of take a leap with certain people who maybe don't have the expertise, but they have the interest and the enthusiasm and those kind of things, where you can encourage that behavior, whether that's come from an external source doing that. And sometimes that's what you need an external source to come in and tell you, actually, this is how things are, because you get a far more honest appraisal. And actually, you tend to then open people's eyes sometimes to what people think is, this is just my job, as to this person's overperforming. And I think it's fantastic when you have something like Emotive, who have the ability and capability to come into a company and come into any kind of environment and actually elevate what they do to another level.
Yeah.
And to give you a quick, very good example around that as well is, if you to bring it back to the football sense, businesses like football teams, they all want to go and buy the superstar, right? And in the tech sector, that would be like hiring the unicorn expert to come in. But they're really expensive. They're very rare. There's not that many of them. So kind of going in and optimizing what you already have might turn you into getting somebody like a Frank Lampard or a Gerrard, or somebody who is good, but or even Cristiano Ronaldo to a certain degree. But they get their greatness from the hard work or from the optimization of their processes. And being able to implement that sort of thing, you can actually make really star players from what you really have, rather than always having to go and get the Messis and the different top players that are already out there.
Well, we've seen this sort of thing with West Ham quite a lot on the pitch, haven't we? Moving players about and getting the best out of them. Something that we've seen with Antonio in particular. Didn't work when he went right back. He's moved up top and he's done well. Arnautovic was the same. So it's something that in football I think is has massive potential.
Yeah, 100%. We spoke about the 3 out of the 4, Jonathan. The last one is kind of AI readiness, which I personally find very interesting around the whole AI subject. So what is that process? Like, what is the key elements of that service? Is it kind of getting a business prepared for the new integration? Is it kind of cleaning up existing data to then push on and use AI as a business? How does it work?
Is bang on. So what we found out very quickly, we did like everybody else did, is we got into the AI space, and we've been doing it for years before it became the big hot thing. But what we ran into very, very quickly was there's a certain amount of implementation of AI that people can just pick up off the shelf and put into their businesses, ChatGPT and so on and that forth. But the execution of that is quite limited. And so then the kind of productivity of that wanes very quickly. And for you to move into what I call true AI in your business, where it's actually running off your information and data within inside the business, that becomes a problem really, really quickly. And a lot of businesses are actually either holding off or they're stumbling or moving very, very slowly, and wisely so. So what we do is, I'll give you an analogy. It's not football, I'm afraid, but if you remember when TVs went from standard definition into high definition, there was a whole label on each of these TVs saying they were HD ready because the content wasn't ready, but the TVs were ready to do so. And so we kind of took that same value and started going to businesses and basically analyzing the way that the data is within inside the business, the way that they work functionally, and start to look at how we can kind of optimize that so that whatever AI tools or solutions you want to go and buy, the business is ready to integrate with that, and the data is cleaned up to a point where the AI can make use of it and give you those insights. So kind of going back to what's cornerstone of this channel, for you to be able to give the analysis on the play, you need clean data and you need clean insight into what those plays are. And we do that for a business so they can get the same analysis and same insights into their business, but through using AI. So we have a step before AI implementation, and that's AI ready, or being AI ready.
Well, we've seen it before. We've said it this summer. Some of the data we use for these players can be skewed or not relevant to what we're actually presenting and not 100% accurate. So we're always very cautious to show the correct data and show the correct information. And I guess like a good analogy of that is, when we moved to London Stadium, a world-class team in a world-class stadium, but we had Jonathan Clary striker, so we weren't really ready for that. We didn't really have the foundations to label ourselves that. So
that's true Big John slander, that is.
But he scored one goal, didn't he? And it was like a massive deflection. But,
it was, yeah.
But yeah,
West Ham legend.
Yeah, but it's interesting because we all find this stuff fascinating because we're heavily into data, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers right now who are fans of Babbling Irons, they're very much behind the data stuff. That's kind of our USP as a channel. Providing the data analysis and looking at things like you've mentioned as your kind of services for Emotive, Jonathan. So yeah, I think it's overall, we're really, really excited by this partnership. The first one to sponsor our channel, which is a massive, thing for us to be able to do to push forwards. And there's no doubt we're going to be able to do some collaborations, to move Babbling Irons in the right direction with some of the services you provide, which is, again, a massive thing for us. We don't want to work with brands that don't resonate with A, our audience, and B, how we operate. So I think it ties in really nicely. But I think you'll see a lot of Emotive on the channel over the next couple of months and stuff. But if you are interested in the services Jonathan's mentioned, you can scan this QR code now on the screen. It will take you to emotivetouch.com with our little Babbling Irons page on there as well. So yeah, you can check it out in a little bit more detail. You can get in touch with Jonathan himself if you have any questions or anything that could relate to your business outside of watching Babbling Irons. But yeah, overall, really excited. Jonathan, how do you think the rest of the transfer window and pre-season and stuff's going to shape up for West Ham? Because we've only got a month now until the season starts. It's crazy, man. It's gone so fast.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm panicking because that wouldn't be true. I'm still kind of relaxed because of what you said before, Mike. For example, around the way that Lopetegui and Steiten are working, they seem to be in lockstep. So that creates a sense of reassurance. The interviews that have come out have been really good as well. In fact, really refreshing from the club. And one of the things that I don't want to slander Moyes, but I didn't feel he was a good representation in front of the camera for what the club was representing because of his feistiness with the reporters. So to see Lopetegui and Tim conduct themselves in the way they have as a representation of the club makes you feel like, great, these people are representing the club really well. So kind of going back to your question, it comes back to the budget question. And I know it's a divisive conversation, but let's assume the budget's there, then I'm relaxed. And I assume we'll get stuff through. But I am concerned of the pre-season side of things, so that will have a knock-on effect. If they come in late, which I assume some of them will, then they've got Lopetegui's kind of induction process. So you might see a few players kind of be a little bit off the pace till around about, early December before they start to click in. But I would also say the fixtures this year have been very, very favourable to us. I wouldn't say they've been the most favourable, but compared to what we've had in the last few years, which is like start with Man City and then play Arsenal, and then you might get Crystal Palace. You're like, I'm already 9 points down before I've even begun. So I think it's been, looking at the fixtures, are much more balanced. They're much more equal. I feel like any losses that we have, we've got an opportunity to bounce back within the game or two after. So I think all of that will kind of help.
Cool. Who are you looking at next season as kind of West Ham's key player? Is it Mo Kudus, Bowen, maybe someone a little bit more under the radar, or maybe a potential signing that's already happened?
I'm going to say Paqueta, because
you think he'll stay?
two seasons, forgetting his issues, like, let's assume he's available and playing.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing him in the number 8 role. We haven't seen it, right? So he's been exceptional on the left. He's obviously been frustrated and all sorts of stuff. But him as a number 8, as he does for Brazil, should be game changing for West Ham. Is my view on it. So there's going to be many really good players that are going to benefit off that. So I reckon Bowen and Kudus and whoever we get on the left is going to really benefit in terms of goal tally and assists. But it'll be that starting kind of maestro with Paqueta at number 8, just spraying balls around, finding those channel that most people won't see, and that's what I'm excited to see. Really, see how he maestros that midfield.
Yeah, I mean, if we can keep hold of Bowen, Kudus, and Paqueta and build on the platforms that we have so far this summer, I think we've got a really solid foundation building. So, yeah, man, I'm starting to get a little bit excited now for the season. I know it's only a month away, which is mental. So, still a lot of work to be done on the transfer on the transfer market, but yeah, it's good that we're moving swiftly. We've got obviously Max Kilman in, which is a massive signing, likely to be the club captain. So, yeah, it looks like Lopetegui, as you mentioned, Lopetegui and Steiden just been absolutely fantastic so far from what we've seen, both on the same page. It looks like we're moving forwards with certain targets. So, yeah, Sloth, Mike, how are you feeling? I know you said you're calm, Mike. You're going to remain cool, calm, collected until the season starts.
So I may lose my proverbial S if so. Say we bring in the likes of Yusuf Fofana in midfield. We go out and get Todibo to play in defence. If we go out and get Jonathan David to play as a striker, I may lose my calm, but for very good reason. And if we go and get a left winger, the likes of which are on par with what we currently are seeing in terms of links, yeah, I think I might finally lose my calm and be beyond a little bit excited.
Cool. Sloth?
Yeah, no, I think we've definitely got the foundations in place, and there is a very strong base to go forward. And I think if we can add a few more quality players around that, I think we'll have had a very strong summer. I think what I am hoping for is there's no 6-0s next season. There's no great big thrashings. I can handle maybe one a season, maybe one or two, but last season was a bit much, wasn't it? So if we can strengthen up the back a little bit more, I think in terms of outgoings, I think we know that we have to move a couple of centre backs on. But like Mike said, if we can add a Todibo in there, if we move along Aguerd, I think we'll be really set for next season.
Yeah, it looks like we have a clear direction we're heading in. The strategy's in place. So now it's about the execution of that strategy for the transfer window. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more content. And yeah, make sure, again, I'll put it up here, go check out emotivetouch.com for Jonathan's Emotive services. And yeah, you can look at how that could integrate into your businesses as well. So yeah, big season ahead, lads. Hopefully it'll be a good one for Lopetegui. A lot of moving components this summer transfer window, but it looks like we're getting the foundation sorted, which is definitely the best platform to build off. So yeah, make sure to check out the link in the description if you missed out that QR code to go check out Emotive. And yeah, guys, until the next one.
Come on, you guys.